UFC 210 fights, picks, predictions, $1,000 total. Let's start. Nzechukwu versus Lukasz Brzeski. I know Lukasz is coming off of a win against Walter Walker, but at this point, Walter Walker... I mean, Walter Walker did pass the test of one of the Tafa Bros, ended up submitting him. I was there live. It was quite fun to watch. I hate the Tafa Bros. Anyway, Lukasz was able to pass that test, but his striking overall, when you look at the heavyweight division, it's quite terrible. The light heavyweights, for the most part, have better everywhere. And Kennedy is a light heavyweight fighting a low-ranked heavyweight in total. I mean, he's a massive underdog, Lukasz, so big shout out to him if he does pull this off. And I think he's a pretty big underdog against Walter Walker as well. But in this scenario, I'm just imagining Kennedy Nzechukwu's striking is far too diverse, let's just say, compared to the one-dimensional striking of Lukasz. Kennedy Nzechukwu, I think, is just a better striker. I think there might be some power. I mean, I can't actually tell by the power of Kennedy Nzechukwu. But he did end up KOing Chris Barnett, but Chris Barnett is another fat slob. I'm hoping Kennedy Nzechukwu goes on this run in the heavyweight division, which just cleans out the trash at the bottom of the division. And I'm hoping that's where we're going here, because I don't see Lukasz as a high-level heavyweight anyway. I think we need to get them out of the sport. I think if you're a heavyweight, you're overweight or white, or of a lighter... We need athletes in the heavyweight division. We don't need this, you know... It's like the NBA. It's nothing racist. Come on, it's just the NBA. You're slow, you're plodding. You don't got speed. You're terrible. I hope Kennedy Nzechukwu destroys him. Anyway, Kennedy Nzechukwu the pick here. Next up, Choi Super versus Clay Guida. Clay Guida, aged out of his mind. Back in the day was the cardio king. Back in the day was known for exciting fights. Nowadays he's known for more of his boring fights. Wrestles people, goes for the takedowns, hugs their crotches, has boring fights on the feet. I'm falling asleep just thinking about it. Next up, we have Choi Super, who has... I believe he came to the UFC at the age of 18, and ever since then he has grown more and more. And at this point in his career, I think his striking has developed far more than we expected, as well as his jiu-jitsu. Like, if this fight goes to the ground, like Clay Guida will try to take it at some point, I'm sure. Because on the feet, I think Clay Guida's reaction time and his actual speed have significantly slowed down. And Clay Guida was never the most technical dude. I can see him point fighting away at this one, holding Choi Super against the cage, not trying, honestly just clinching him and not trying to take this to the ground. Because on the ground, Choi Super has a massive advantage over Clay Guida, and I can see Clay Guida just stinking it up for the most part. But I think Choi Super striking will keep Clay Guida on his feet, and eventually if he goes for a bad takedown, Choi Super should be able to grab a submission off of his back, or as Clay Guida is going for a takedown. Clay Guida sucks. Again, another one of those garbage fighters that have stuck around way too long and are ruining UFC cards. Every time he's on the UFC Apex gets worse. Choi Super, get rid of this old man. Just throw him in the trash can and make sure he never makes money off MMA again. Because he's boring and he's nothing personal to me, but that's the game we play. Next up, Michael Chiesa versus Max Griffin. Thinking of old-aged fighters, Michael Chiesa turns up. He is clearly not in it like he used to be. Back in the day, Michael Chiesa was quite high level, honestly. Top 10 in the welterweight and in the lightweight division at one point in his career. I just think it's a little bit gone now. His last fight was a literal layup against Tony Ferguson. And that's why Michael Chiesa in the spotlight. If he beats Max Griffin here, I do think he will be able to continue on the momentum. And I'm not going to say he's going to get a big fight, but he can get some fight of name. Like he fought Kevin Holland and got sparked on the feet. Max Griffin, an aged fighter himself. If he was younger, I would probably pick him to win here. Giving away my prediction, basically. Max Griffin has the better striking of the two. That's the thing. Obviously, Michael Chiesa's got no striking game. But Max Griffin's also a bit more of a... I could expect him to use point fight in this fight, in all honesty. I think Max Griffin's quite good, though. Like, in all... What am I about to say that he's quite good at fighting? I mean, both these guys are decent enough, but I just think here's the thing, Max Griffin can easily just jab from a distance, piece up Michael Chiesa, maybe able to stuff a few takedowns at the beginning. But as the fight goes on, I'm expecting Michael Chiesa to take off. I'm not expecting Michael Chiesa's chin to be completely gone. I'm not expecting to get KO. I'm not expecting to get pieced up on the feet, be so slow that he's just like that, basically be Anthony Smith, in all honesty. But yeah, the pick's gonna be Michael Chiesa, but this is not what I'm confident about. But I did end up taking the $125 stake just because he was an underdog and the payout was quite good. That's where the first of my money's going. Continue to watch to find out where the rest is. Joshua Van versus Cody Durden. I'll be honest with you, with this fight, Cody Durden is coming off a win against Matt Schnell. I didn't know he was going to win this fight. It was a bit of a coin toss because I do think Joshua Van in general has some decent takedown defense. I mean, his what's his name? Chiraz? Was it Chivares? Something like that. I'm really bad when Joshua Van did end up striking quite well in that fight. And I do believe that I think Joshua Van got submitted as well in that Chiraz fight. Don't quote me on that one. But Cody Durden coming off a win against Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell, welcome to the club, is a wash flyweight. I'm glad I think he retired, right? Like, so I'm glad he's out of the sport. I just hate some of these old fighters that ruin cards. But Matt Schnell was a fun fighter. He had good goofy knockouts. So I actually take that back. I think Matt Schnell, legend of the sport. But Cody Durden, I'm expecting him to shoot some takedowns here. I do think Joshua Van's takedown defense is quite good. And basically what you're coming down to here is, will Joshua Van be able to piece up Cody Durden on the feet, or will Cody Durden be basically able to take down Joshua Van and control him and threaten him with submissions enough to the point where Joshua Van is nullified? Because we're looking at flyweights here. With flyweight division, like, they're so quick and fast, anything can happen. There's so... I give the advantage on the feet to Joshua Van while I give the advantage on the ground to Cody Durden. So but Joshua Van can wrestle as well. That's the other thing. Flyweights just seem to be more complete fighters and they're much harder to pick fights for. I ended up siding with Cody Durden, but don't quote me on this one. It's a toughie. I picked Cody Durden. Last minute, I kind of want to change my opinion, but I'm not going to. Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. Eryk Anders, the faster of the two. Eryk Anders, the better striking of the two. Chris Weidman will win just based off pure fluke. I was picking Weidman at UFC 310. I had money on him, but I'm glad... Oh, sorry, at 309. I'm glad he pulled out, because now I'm really starting to doubt myself. The fight's happening at 195. Gives Eryk Anders a bit more size. Weidman doesn't have that muscle anymore. He ain't got that muscle definition. He ain't got that muscle girth, that beef that some of these fighters need. He ain't got that. He'll be shooting takedowns, but I don't think he'll be able to be too successful with it. I think Eryk Anders, for the most part, can stuff the Weidman takedowns. I don't think Weidman is this crazy wrestler anymore. Like, the athleticism gap is there, but it's Eryk Anders. You know what I mean? Like, is it crazy to say Weidman could pick off a win against Eryk Anders at this wash stage of his career? No, and Eryk Anders had a tough weight cut. This is a tough one. I'll stick with my original pick. I'm sticking with Chris Weidman, but do not be surprised if Chris Weidman just gets sparked in this fight, because outside of those eye pokes, even that Bruno Silva fight, like, it might not have been going Chris Weidman's way. The pick's going to be Weidman, but honestly, don't put money on this fight. Like, it's just a gamble to bet on Weidman, who's washed beyond belief. And look at his belly. Ugh. Gross. Men. I'm straight. Bryan Battle versus Randy Brown. Controversial opinion. Upcoming. As good as Bryan Battle has been, and he has been very good, I understand. Bryan Battle's an exciting fighter. Giuseppe got Juice sent back to France when Bryan Battle KO'd him in his last fight in France. Randy Brown, on the other hand, is a step up in competition. Randy Brown has wins over Muslim Salikov, who KO'd Song Kanan. Now I think Bryan Battle could beat Song Kanan. But Salikov is kind of decent, to be honest. He's 40, but he's decent. Randy Brown, I think, can get the win here. I think he has a win over Nico Price as well. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe. Vivid memory. Ugh. It speaks to me, right? Anyway, I think Randy Brown can get the win here. I think the jab is going to be effective in this fight. I'm expecting Randy Brown to jab. I'm expecting Bryan Battle to gas out, to be honest, because he goes hard in some of those rounds when he senses danger. Randy Brown is someone who can catch you with the counter-striking. He has some good looping shots. I do believe he'll be able to... he could catch Bryan Battle, in all honesty. Bryan Battle can utilize some of his wrestling in this fight, which is an advantage that he does have, but I don't think Randy Brown is a slob when it comes to takedown defenses, from at least what I've seen. I think he could be decent on that end, and I do think Bryan Battle can go too hard too quickly to the point where he does end up eventually gassing out. So, just based on that, I am going to pick Randy Brown. He's a great underdog to pick. I do have 125 on Randy Brown. I think he'll get it done, and I think this is a really good underdog pick. Even though I do kind of want Battle to win, I do think the pick would have to be Randy Brown, and I don't see myself betting on Bryan Battle given what the odds are. Movsar Evleov versus Aljamain Poop Stain Sterling. I'm going with Movsar Evleov. I do have a bet on this. The odds are quite in the favor of Movsar, and I've never quite realized this. until now, but apparently his breasts are, holy moly, they're massive. He's doing a lot of push-ups. But you know, he's making Aljamain Sterling's like chest insertions look like joke compared to this. I mean, cover the face up and I'm straight, obviously. Movsar Evleov has shown to be a really strong point fighter. He has shown that when it comes to the wrestling, like, of a lot of these fighters, like, well, here's the thing. Aljamain Sterling's grappling is actually quite on par with, or better than, actually better than Evleov's. In terms of wrestling, I do think Aljamain can mix in the wrestling himself, but can he take down Evleov? I don't think he can. I think if the fight stays on the feet, I do think Aljamain Sterling's striking is definitely inferior to Movsar Evleov's. Movsar Evleov's got some really good kicks in his game, especially to the teep kicks to the body. I'm expecting them to be a factor here, but he might not throw them as much just because he's scared of the threat of Aljamain Sterling catching his kick and going for a takedown. Because on the ground, Aljamain Sterling definitely has the advantage, in my opinion. We saw Diego Lopez out jiu-jitsu Evleov, and Evleov was in some tough position. I think someone like Aljamain Sterling can submit Evleov, so he has to be very careful. But I think for the most part, Evleov can keep this on the feet. I don't think he'll be utilizing his wrestling as much. But remember when we saw Petr Yan versus Sterling in their first fight, where Petr Yan was just like basically just slamming Sterling onto the ground. A lot of fighters make the mistake of basically being like, oh, this guy's a jiu-jitsu guy. I can't possibly go to the ground with him. No, you can go to the ground with him. Just be safe, be careful, don't overextend yourself. Hold him down, maybe make it a bit boring. But expect Evleov to win this fight on the feet, 29-28. I do think Sterling wins a round. The bet here is going to be Evleov to win and round 2 to begin. I could have gone by decision. I was too scared. I'm a pussy. Whatever. I think this is a good bet. I think Evleov is going to win. I think his kicks are going to be dangerous. I can see him KOing Sterling in the second and third round. That's why I was a bit hesitant. Like with Arnold Allen, I just couldn't see it. But with this fight, I'm just like, kicks to the teeps of the body. Good striking, but is it that unlikely? I don't think so. Anyway, Themba Gorimbo versus Vicente Luque. Now, Themba Gorimbo is coming off a win against Nico Price, I believe, where he wrestle left him. But it was a recent fight that he had. I think Themba Gorimbo is getting a little bit overrated. Like, he's a big, strong dude, I understand. He has KO power somewhat, especially when you consider the factor that Vicente Luque is coming off brain damage, basically. Has few brain cells left, and the ones that are left aren't doing a good enough job to protect his brain. But we've seen Joaquin Buckley be quite good against someone like Wonderboy, where he was able to mix in the takedowns. Close 1-1 into the third, but eventually caught Wonderboy and had enough knockout power to KO someone like Wonderboy, who actually has a really good and underrated chin in all honesty. Vicente Luque was taken down and finished on the ground. I can see Themba Gorimbo mixing in the wrestling and submitting Luque. Luque does have good jiu-jitsu though. A factor of his... I'm burping a lot. A factor of his game that is continuously forgotten is the fact that Vicente Luque does, in fact, have good jiu-jitsu. It wasn't too long ago where guys like Michael Chiesa wouldn't dare go to the ground with him. There was a guy like where Woodley wouldn't even dare shoot a takedown. But Woodley was now... I mean, I understand Woodley's a bit of a bitch when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, in all honesty, it took Bilal Muhammad, like, just wrestling... I mean, it took a goat like Bilal Muhammad to finally beat Vicente Luque in this streak. And then Jeff Neal caught him, and I get it. His chin's not the most durable. But is Themba really gonna... Like, another one of those cases where the underdog... Maybe it's just the... Listen, when the fight was announced, I was like, okay, my god. Themba Gorimbo's gonna be an underdog against Vicente Luque. I'm gonna bet on Themba Gorimbo. But now I'm coming back to it, and like, the odds have shifted to Luque being the underdog. And now I think he's gonna win. Maybe I'm just being a little bit biased, so don't take this bet with a full grain of salt. But I do have him to win, and I don't think it's the worst bet of all time. Like, I'm looking at these two guys fighting, and... Someone like Gorimbo, if he mixes... I can so see Luque catching him. That's the thing. Like, there's a big gap. Listen, Luque has also beaten Nico Price. Nothing shocking there. Against the higher tier strikers, I do think Luque does lose, but... I'm looking at... He lost... I don't know. I just don't think I've seen Themba be tested. I think there's enough holes in his game, especially on the feet, where Luque is dangerous. He's a silent assassin. He has good striking. He hasn't completely been able to show it, but unless Themba takes him down and then just ground and pounds him and Luque just quits again, I think he wins this fight, in all honesty. Anthony Smith versus Dominick Reyes. I made a whole video on this, so I won't go too deep into this. Anthony Smith, pig heart. Absolute disgrace. Massive CUNT of the division. In the corner, shelled up, pissing himself, crying, wishing the ref doesn't call the fight off. Literally urine coming out of his pants. The pants are wet. urine spreads across the UFC cage, and as the fight ends, as Anthony Smith lays in his own urine, he wakes up. Not wakes up, he's still awake, he just survives the fight, stands up and starts howling insults that you and John Jones isn't good enough, and Alex Pereira would get submitted by me in 2 seconds. Oh, and if Glover fought me like that, he'd get finished. If Yuri Prohaska fought me like that, there's no way they'd beat me. These guys know. No one took the fight with me for some reason. Why is a middleweight fighting me? All these light heavyweights, you ask them, why aren't they fighting me? As he's covered in urine, shit's starting to come out of his ass. That's who Anthony Smith is. An absolute bitch of a fighter. Literally just talk shits about other fighters that are trying to make something of their careers. Anthony Smith himself knows that he isn't the best fighter, so he needs to hype himself up. He needs to make himself seem like a high-level fighter. For the longest time, he kept telling us that he's a top 5 guy in the world, top 10 guy in the world. You're there by circumstance. The guys that made up those spots got released by the UFC just for whatever reason. Because they knew they couldn't be champions, but even like Rumble could have though. But anyway, they got let go eventually. They retired. That gave rise to you beating some old washed up fighters. And then beating some up-and-comers by fluking wins over Devin... No, Devin Clark's shit, okay? You didn't fluke a win over him. Jimmy Crute, kind of, but I think you would have beaten him anyway. But then Ryan Spann in the rematch. Split decision. You've been losing a lot recently, and I understand in your prime you were a lot better than this. But for the most part, you are a kettle of piss. Dominick Reyes, on the opposite end, one of the most likable guys in the division in my opinion. Coming off a lot of losses, when he finally beat Justin Gabriel, it was such a huge feel-good moment. It felt amazing. Got his hand raised. He was happy about it. KO'd this fool, and I think he will. I think Anthony Smith is too weak to take down Dominick Reyes, who John Jones couldn't take down, because Dominick Reyes actually has athleticism, something Anthony Smith has never touched in his life. He'll get back on his feet, be able to beat up Anthony Smith, and then that's that. Then we're off to the rat race. Road to title begins now. I think he'll KO him in the 3rd round. Swing his jaw around. Maybe even the 2nd. I think the 3rd is the safe shout, though. And just break him. Because when Anthony Smith gasses, he'll do these fake feints and jabs that you know he's not going for the win. He's just putting on a show. He's pathetic, pig heart, no actual guts, no actual glory. Shit tattoos as well. Fuck off, Anthony Smith. The pick is Dominick Reyes, part of my 2-leg parlay. Nate the Train, baby, versus Choi Do-Hoo. Choi Do-Hoo took a massive layoff at one point in his career, and then he came back. He's coming off of a win, I do believe. What was his name? Sorry. Anyway, Nate the Train, you know what he brings to the table. He can wrestle as well. I do believe Nate the Train will be going full on steam ahead on the feet. We saw Do-Hoo Choi have one of the fights of the year against Cub Swanson. It was an older Cub Swanson. It was a great fight to see. I do kind of want to change last minute to Do-Hoo Choi though. I think Choi Do-Hoo or whatever the hell. I think Nate the Train is very good when it comes to the striking, and I think he'll make it an exciting fight. But that's the kind of fights where you can expect him to get chinned. I remember the fight that he had with Dan Ige, where he was eventually chinned in that fight. I believe it was Ige. Yeah, it was Dan Ige. I think he chinned Nate the Train, but I'm expecting something like that again. Where I do think one of these two will get chinned. I did end up picking Nate the Train, by the way, for this fight. But I do kind of want to switch to Choi Do-Hoo, just because I think he is... Nate the Train is on the highest level IQ fighter, and I've seen him have close fights where he's gotten dropped before. Maybe I'm just being too recency biased, because Nate the Train's an exciting fighter. Do-Hoo Choi had a massive layoff. I know it says I'm picking Nate Landwehr, but I'm going to officially switch my pick mid-video to Choi Do-Hoo. I just can't explain it. I can just see it in my head though. Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie. I understand his name is Gracie. I understand he adds more to the card by being on it. You know why? Because his last name's Gracie and he's such a soy boy cuck. After his last fight, he disgraced the Gracie name. Shameful, considering the Hoist Gracie came along, won the UFC, showed that Jiu-Jitsu is the best martial arts. Now we have Kron Gracie just embarrassing the sport. Anthony Smithing it the whole way through. But then again, if you're going to give him a ranked fighter, and you can tell the UFC want Kron Gracie to win this fight, and I'll be rooting for Kron Gracie, don't get me wrong. You know what they want from Gracie. If he beats Bryce Mitchell, I think he'll be a top 15 ranked fighter in the division. They want that because they know his name brings in people and adds stories to the UFC. But here's the thing, I don't think Bryce Mitchell's just going to wrestle with him. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know how high level Kron's Jiu-Jitsu is. No, wait, I know he's one of the best Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the world. I know he won medals in Jiu-Jitsu, but in terms of MMA, when Bryce Mitchell is throwing punches at your face and you're just like, ooh, 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 are you really going to be able to set up the triangle in the same way? I'm really worried. I don't think Bryce Mitchell will even go for the takedowns in all honesty, but knowing Bryce Mitchell, he might just to prove that America's #1 and God is great or something like that. And it sits in the Bible. John 3:16 said you have to go for a takedown. All that stuff. But I think if he just keeps it on the feet, Gracie's striking is so bad. I think if I were to get him in a street fight with him on the feet, I think I'd KO him. So just keep it on the feet, and I think Bryce Mitchell has a really easy pathway to win. It just comes down to the IQ of Bryce Mitchell, but I'm always going to side with the clear pathway over a fighter just making a stupid decision, which he very well could, don't get me wrong. I mean, my last pick was based on that, so what am I talking about? The pick is Bryce Mitchell. His pathway to victory is just so clear and easy. I can't see him going down the route of, let me wrestle this guy. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. The fight happened. We saw who won. It's Ciryl Gane. Don't get me wrong. At the start of the fight, it was close. And I can understand a lot of people saying Volkov is better now than he was before. But with a lot of these fighters, just because we recently see them fight, we think, oh, well, this guy is better than they used to be. No, I understand he beat Pavlovich. But now in hindsight, Ciryl Gane probably could circle around, jab at Pavlovich, break him down overall. It's nothing too crazy that Volkov did that. His height and his reach is massive. But Ciryl going to pick it up in a 3-round fight, I think. I think this will be 29-28. I think it'll be closer than the first fight, which some just had 50-45. I don't agree with that at all. I think it was 49-46. I think Volkov probably won the first round, I believe. And after that, it was all just Ciryl Gane. I think similar results. Volkov wins the first, Ciryl Gane wins 2 and 3. I think he's just too fast, too elusive, too skillful, to be honest. And I don't know if Volkov's wrestling is going to be what really brings down Ciryl Gane. I think he can stuff the takedowns of someone like Volkov. This will be on the feet fighting. Vice versa, though, I don't think Ciryl Gane can wrestle Volkov and take him down and beat him like, you know, Blades could and, what's that other guy's name? Oh, yeah, Tom Aspinall. Good. Yeah, I think Ciryl Gane takes it. I think I've seen him piece up too many fighters. I've seen him piece up heavy hitters. I've seen him piece up Volkov. There's not much to break down here. I think he's going to mix in the jab, mix in the kicks, point fight for the most of it, and then eventually win because of his great cardio and ability to just edge Ryan's out that is prominently on the feet. Not much to break down. I mean, we've seen the fight. It's 3 rounds, so maybe you can think Volkov, one of the rounds, maybe catches Ciryl Gane as well as winning the first round. So he wins the first round, let's say, and then later on he just catches Ciryl Gane. Highly unlikely. Again, the path to victory of Ciryl Gane's too clear for me to just bet on something that could happen. The pick will be Ciryl Gane. He's part of my 2-leg multi. Him and Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Garry Machado. The striking on the feet is close. I can't understate that point of the fight. I can't say that Shavkat really definitely has the better striking. If anything, I think his striking is far more reckless. Sometimes he has his hands down, doesn't always have his hands up. Ian Garry's striking far more technical. I think he counters fighters well. I think he finds good shots well. I think he picks his shot better than Shavkat. Shavkat's more of an exciting fighter where he'll mix in the takedown, mix in the striking, move forward, and rip his opponents apart. And I do agree with Ian Garry when he said, well, actually, no, I don't. Shavkat's gotten the similar opponents they share. Shavkat's wins are better, but Ian Garry's are safer. Like with Shavkat and Jeff Neal, there was always that chance that Jeff Neal chins Shavkat because he was moving in, getting not rocked, but he was stumbling backwards in some of those striking exchanges. Ian Garry for the most part, but then again, he nearly lost to a split decision. Anyway, the pick will be Shavkat. I think just the wrestling part of the fight is too much in the favor of Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he's the far superior grappler of the two, and I just saw Ian Garry get taken down by MVP. Not the best wrestler ever. In the 3rd round, MVP literally just went, oh, you know what? Get back on your feet. And then Ian Garry was like, alright, and then he went for a takedown on MVP. Shavkat won't do that. He can't be taken up by Ian Garry. If anything, Shavkat will take down Ian Garry. I do expect a submission in round number 4. A good fight in all honesty, but the pick will be Shavkat Rakhmonov. I just can't see him getting finished. That's the thing. If it's a 3-round fight, it's still Shavkat. Like, 5 rounds, 3 rounds. I guess 5 rounds is better for Ian Garry, if anything. I think in a 3-round fight, Shavkat definitely edges out Ian Garry with the grappling, with the striking, with the more damaging of the two. But in the 5-round fight, Ian Garry has more opportunities to find his chin as long as he doesn't gas. So based on that, I mean, it can go either way, but the pick will be Shavkat Rakhmonov. I've made a video on this. Nothing too much to break down. Part of my 2-leg multi, $250. On Gane and Shavkat. That's where you need to put your money. Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. I've made a video on this. It got 32 or 33 views. Absolutely bombed. Why, guys? And why you two for not pushing it? Pantoja could have 3 title defenses, but 2 of them you can legitimately make the argument he only fought them because there was no one else and they're not quite title challenger worthy. And those are Kai Asakura, Steve Eryk. I think this fight will be closer than you think. In the early portions, I do think Kai Asakura has power in his hands, but you have to remember, Manel Kape and Kai Asakura have split wins in Ryzen. I understand Ryzen's format is very different, but Manel Kape was able to finish Kai Asakura on the ground by ground and pound. That happened. Pantoja's wrestling is significantly better than Manel Kape's, and I think Pantoja is the type of fighter that will go out swinging. Maybe he doesn't go fully all out against Kai Asakura, but I've seen Alina Pantoja just go wild on the feet, not caring about his chin. So that is the opportunity for Kai Asakura to get the victory here. And I do think Kai Asakura can do that. I'm not going to count him out completely. I do think he can do it. But the thing with Kai Asakura is, when you look at Kai Asakura's game, if you watch some of his Ryzen fights, he is a dude that eventually when he drops you, he will immediately go to boot you in the head using a soccer kick. And that's illegal in the UFC. Now, don't be surprised if he does that in the UFC and maybe gets DQ'd. Unless Pantoja is a low IQ midget who just says, no, I can keep going on, and then gets KO'd anyway. I can see that happening. I think the muscle memory, all those the intuition of knowing what to do, when you have to think about it, you're a bit slower. I can see Pantoja capitalizing on that, getting some takedowns. I do think he finds a submission. I don't know exactly what round I'm going to be picking here. Let's pick it right now. Round 3. Round 3. Submission by Alexander Pantoja. I do think Kai Asakura is very good, but look at Manel Kape, man. The win over Kai Asakura win over Manel Kape was a split decision. I honestly think you could make the argument Manel Kape won that fight. And Manel Kape in the UFC has been out-grappled by a few fighters now. Like, especially in his last fight against Mukayev. Like, that's kind of an exposing kind of performance. Is Pantoja the kind of wrestler Mukayev is? Nope. But is Pantoja better than the average grappler? I think so. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he has some very dangerous submissions. I think Kai Asakura won't be ready for it. I'm expecting a submission finish from Pantoja. A part of me is like, well, he's just come to the UFC. He's a big star. Things always work out for the UFC. Not this time. At some point, we have to draw the line and say, this guy was the Ryzen World Champion. Has losses to Kyoji Haraguchi. He has losses in Ryzen to guys that I don't think would be on the level of Pantoja anymore. At some point, I know you can't just look at the wins and the losses, but at some point you would think, I understand they're fighting in a ring. It's better for Kai Asakura to be in the octagon, to circle away from the takedown attempts. Keep moving in and around circle. No stopping, no way for you to get cut off. It's harder for you to get cut off in the cage than it is in the ring. Because the ring is like 4 dimensions, you know what I mean? Like when you're turning, you don't have that angle to slope around. But at some point, you gotta think like the best flyweight on the planet is Pantoja. Someone from Ryzen shouldn't be beating him. Especially when you consider his wins, his performances, and you consider Pantoja's wins and his performances. The pick is Alexander Pantoja. That's the entire card done. Like, share, and subscribe. Can we still hope to get me to 150 subscribers till by Sunday, UFC 310, after my live stream ends? Can we do it? Probably not, right? But in case we can, konnichiwa. I'll see you next time. I'm 136. Get me to 150. Like the video, share it. Screw it, just share the video. I'll see you next time. I'm straight.